r/didyouknowhistory is a nice place to post and read something about our history, be it simple or absolutely bizarre. Enjoy. An extract from John Adams' diary for 1776 describes the time when he had to share a tiny bed with Benjamin Franklin, and, instead of sleeping, they had an argument about whether to keep the windows open or closed. Franklin eventually won the argument when Adams got too tired and fell asleep. This occurred during the beginning of the American Revolution, when both men were traveling through New Jersey to negotiate with the British. Little things in life like these always cheer me up. I got the exact same feeling from this story. I think everything's gonna be okay somehow. In the 1950s, donut shops were some of the first food businesses commonly open late at night. They became hotspots for police working the night shift, since it gave them a place to grab a snack, fill out paperwork, or even just take a break. This is why donuts became associated with cops. Why were donut shops of all places open the latest? It's mentioned in the article that the donut shops were open to get ready for the morning rush, so maybe not so much late at night as very early in the morning. When I was a kid, we have an officer living across the street. When I was like 6, I asked him why cops like donuts, and he very nicely said we work a lot of late nights and drink a lot of coffee, and nothing goes better with coffee than donuts. In Nazi Germany, when an actor lost his job for being Jewish, he went to the Alps, grew a beard, and dyed all his hair by bathing in diluted hydrogen. He returned to the stage claiming to be a self-taught peasant actor, and was praised by the Nazis as proof of the superiority of the Aryan race. Fleeing the Nazis, Lionel Royce returned to Austria in 1936, where to hide his heritage, he created the persona of Caspar Brandhofer, a Tyrolean peasant, and became a sensation as a natural actor on the stage in Vienna. Dilute hydrogen. I think they mean hydrogen peroxide, the thing that people use to bleach hair. Diluted hydrogen peroxide. My bad. Prohibition agent Easy Einstein bragged that he could find liquor in any city in under 30 minutes. In Chicago it took him 21 minutes. In Atlanta 17. And Pittsburgh just 11. But New Orleans set the record. 35 seconds. Einstein asked his taxi driver where to get a drink, and the driver handed him one. In 1959, police were called to a segregated library in South Carolina when a 9-year-old black boy refused to leave. He later got a PhD in physics from MIT and died in 1986, one of the astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger. The library that refused to lend him books is now named after him. Ronald McNair became one of the first 3 African American astronauts to go to space. I know it's in the past, but still makes me sad to know a library tried to kick out a little boy who desperately wanted to be there just because of skin color. Hard not to get depressed knowing that the mentality that allowed this sort of thing is ascendant and ensconced in the White House and Senate. Amen. He had it coming, man. The oldest bar in the world is over 1100 years old. It is located in Athlone, Ireland. Archaeological records have found that the walls of Sean's Bar have been around and serving since 900 AD. Further, there are records of every owner of the pub back to its 10th century founding. I wonder what the 9th century equivalent of Smirnoff Ice was. You would have had a choice of ale or ale. The time Pepsi had 6th largest navy in the world. During the American National Exhibition, which President Dwight D. Eisenhower ordered Vice President Nixon to attend, arguments between the General Secretary of the USSR, Khrushchev, and said Vice President sparked. They got into a heated argument about the ideologies capitalism and communism, and the Vice President of Pepsi had to step in and settle the bickering. He offered the General Secretary a glass of Pepsi, and he loved it. Since the USSR didn't want to subject their people to capitalist propaganda like Coca-Cola, they decided to import the less-known American beverage Pepsi. There was, however, a problem with this. They couldn't pay them with their sweet rubles. Therefore they decided to pay them with homemade but a bitter vodka. In the 80s their agreement was about to run out, but they wouldn't be able to pay up with vodka anymore. So their idea was to give PepsiCo 17 submarines, a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer, bumping up Pepsi on the largest navy chart from none to 6th. Impressive. PepsiCo, being very boring people, decided to scuttle and sell the ships to a scrapping yard in Sweden. Interesting. At one point several years ago, Pepsi offered a fighter jet for 1 million proof of purchase points, assuming no one would ever come close to it. One guy went around collecting and buying up points and got to 1 million and sent them in requesting his fighter jet. Case went to the Supreme Court and now law students study it in contracts class as an example of mere puffery advertising. Funny to think that at one point, Pepsi could have actually honored it. I love this. Reminds me of the infamous story about that guy who sued Red Bull after it didn't give him wings. I would also be pissed if Pepsi and Red Bull didn't give me the ability to fly. In the early 1900s, there was an act named Sober Sue, the idea of which was that she never smiled. $1,000 was offered as a prize to anyone who could make her laugh, attracting big comedians who would often perform without charge just to attempt the challenge. Crowds gathered to watch them try and fail, giving them a free show. However, it later turned out that Sue was suffering from facial paralysis. Various theories and interesting stories circulated regarding Sober Sue's emotionless face. Some theorized that she was partially blind or deaf, but the truth was finally revealed in the winter of 1907. It was impossible for Sue to smile or laugh because her facial muscles were paralyzed. Later it turned out that the scam was pulled by Willie Hammerstein, who managed Paradise Roof Garden, where Sue performed. Willie Hammerstein paid Sober Sue $20 a week, which was not that bad at the time. For the venue owner, shows produced a great deal of profit as he managed to lure top-rank comedians into performing for free. But after the truth has been revealed, Willie was condemned, and the comedians never forgave him. What does a drug lord do when his daughter wants a unicorn? Pablo Escobar, Colombian drug lord and narco-terrorist, had a fearsome reputation. El Padrón could not have amassed the money that he did by playing it nice. After all, during his heyday in the mid-1980s, his cartel supplied 80% of the cocaine that was smuggled into the USA and turned over $21.9 billion a year. Escobar is known for his violence and behavior that most of us would deem unethical. However, this dangerous figure had a soft spot: his family, and his daughter in particular. Manuela Escobar, Pablo's only daughter, grew up as cozy and secure as it gets when your father is a drug lord. Her father pulled out all the stops to ensure his princess was comfortable. Manuela was born in 1984 and has an older brother, Juan, who later changed his name to Sebastian Maraquin. Pablo pampered both of his children, allowing them anything and everything they wanted and providing them with all the love that money could buy. Juan and Manuela had it easy when it comes to fulfillment of their wishes, as daddy was one of the richest men on earth. Besides being able to provide for his family's material needs, he was an extremely loving and caring father, but also a kind husband. Escobar's daughter Manuela features the most in stories about his kindness and willingness to make her feel loved. According to stories from his former acquaintances, he did not hesitate to do anything for her well-being. Once, while the family was hiding out in the Medellin mountainside, according to Business Insider, Manuela got sick, so they needed to find a way to keep her warm. He built a fire using what he had at hand, around $2 million worth of banknotes, in order to make the place warm and protect her from hypothermia. However, that was far from the weirdest or most outrageous act he undertook to keep his daughter happy. When Manuela decided she wanted a unicorn, Pablo would not get a little thing like reality stop her from having one. Obviously a real unicorn was out of the question, so he ordered that one should be made. People who worked for him bought a small white horse and set about figuring how to endow it with a horn typical for the mythical animal. The brilliant solution? Simply staple a horn to the animal's head and colorful wings on its back. After undergoing this physical trauma, the poor animal died from an infection and the wounds. Once when Manuela asked his father what is the worth of $1 billion, he responded, "The value of your eyes, princess," reports Entity magazine. Escobar even went so far as to force one of his mistresses to abort their baby, as he had promised Manuela she would be the last child in his line. There are goats with just one horn. If the root for the two horns are transplanted into the middle early in the life of the goat, it grows one big horn. A goat with one horn doesn't make it a full-blown unicorn though. No, of course not. It also has to wholeheartedly believe in the power of friendship, love, hopes and dreams, and magic. Did they staple the wings on the horse too? Because unicorns don't have wings, they were thinking of the Pegasus. Poor horse. Unicorns are real though. Thank you for watching. I wish you a wonderful day. And yes, I know what you are thinking. Why they did not just glued the damn horn on the poor horse. If you liked the video, please like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget Epstein did not kill himself.